Your Honor, this is outrageous. You must allow this evidence. Counselor, control yourself. The objection is sustained. But the jury needs to hear this.
He said, I run this court. The judge didn't raise his voice, but ended his career in seconds. The prosecutor stood at the podium with an air of confidence that immediately felt out of place. It wasn't the quiet confidence of someone prepared. It was sharper than that. Louder. The kind that demanded attention before it earned it. A faint smirk crossed his face as he spoke, as if this courtroom was just another stage where he had performed before. His posture was relaxed, almost casual, like the outcome was already decided in his mind. His voice cut through the room, loud and precise, echoing off the wooden walls. It wasn't just volume. It was tone, controlled but aggressive. Each word delivered with the assumption that no one would challenge him. This wasn't new behavior. You could tell. This was someone used to talking over people, used to pushing limits, used to getting his way by being louder, faster, and more forceful than everyone else in the room. He interrupted mid-sentence. Not once, not twice. Again and again, defense counsel tried to speak. The prosecutor talked over him. A clerk attempted to clarify something. He waved it off. Each interruption stacked on the last, creating a rising tension that sat heavy in the air. At first, people shifted in their seats, unsure whether to react. Courtrooms are places of order, and disorder always feels louder there. A few glances were exchanged. Someone coughed. Another person looked down, pretending not to notice. Then it happened. He leaned forward slightly, his voice tightening with impatience, and crossed the line. I run this court, he said. The words landed wrong. Not because they were loud. Not because they were dramatic. But because they revealed exactly who he thought he was. The room froze. It wasn't a metaphorical pause. It was physical. Movements stopped mid-gesture. Pens hovered above notepads. The air itself felt heavier. This wasn't confidence anymore. This was arrogance. The kind that assumes power without earning respect. The kind that forgets where it stands. People looked around, silently checking each other's reactions, as if asking, did he really just say that? Some faces showed disbelief. Others showed discomfort. A few showed recognition, like they had seen this behavior before and knew it never ended well. Slowly, almost instinctively, attention shifted. Not all at once, but one by one, eyes turned toward the bench, toward Judge Frank Caprio. The judge hadn't moved. He hadn't raised his eyebrows. He hadn't leaned forward. He hadn't interrupted. He simply sat there watching. That stillness spoke louder than any objection could have. The prosecutor kept talking for another moment, filling the silence with more words, more noise. But something had changed. His voice no longer carried the same authority. It echoed back at him, thinner now, exposed. Judge Caprio waited. Not out of hesitation. Out of control. He didn't react right away because he didn't need to. He let the moment breathe. He let the weight of what was said settle into the room. He allowed everyone present to feel the gravity of it. That pause was deliberate. In that silence, the courtroom remembered something important. That authority isn't claimed. It's held. That power in a courtroom doesn't come from volume or arrogance. It comes from responsibility. The prosecutor finally stopped speaking. Not because he was finished, but because the room no longer supported him. Judge Caprio looked directly at him. No anger in his expression. No impatience. Just focus. A long, measured look that didn't rush to correct, didn't rush to punish. It simply acknowledged what had been said and prepared to respond. The judge still didn't speak. He waited, and in that wait, the tension reached its peak. Because everyone knew what was coming. Not an outburst, not a lecture, but something far more powerful. A reminder. Judge Frank Caprio leaned forward slightly in his chair. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't aggressive. But it was enough to signal that the moment had shifted. The room noticed immediately. His posture was calm, measured, and completely unshaken. He didn't mirror the prosecutor's energy. He didn't raise his voice or interrupt with frustration. He did the opposite. He slowed everything down. That contrast alone was powerful. Where the prosecutor had relied on volume and force, the judge relied on restraint. Where arrogance had filled the room moments earlier, composure now took its place. Judge Caprio spoke slowly, each word deliberate, leaving space between sentences. Let me make something very clear. That sentence landed like a gavel strike, even though no gavel moved. The courtroom held its breath. People instinctively leaned forward, not because they were afraid, but because they recognized authority when it showed up, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself. Judge Caprio continued, his voice steady, firm without being loud. I run this courtroom, and no one here is above the law. There was no anger behind the words. No need for it. The statement was simple, factual, undeniable. The effect was immediate. The prosecutor's face changed before anyone else's did. The confidence drained from it, replaced by something closer to realization. His posture stiffened. His shoulders lowered. The smirk disappeared. For the first time, he looked like someone who understood the consequences of his words. Judge Caprio didn't stop there. He explained, calmly and clearly, that respect for the court is not optional. That every person in the room, regardless of position or title, is accountable to the same standards. That no one gets to claim ownership over justice. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't point a finger. He didn't humiliate. And that made it more effective. The warning was public, delivered with clarity rather than emotion. It wasn't designed to embarrass the prosecutor. It was designed to correct him and remind everyone else of the boundaries that protect the integrity of the courtroom. This wasn't a personal confrontation. It was a professional correction. Judge Caprio made it clear that power in the legal system doesn't come from dominance or intimidation. It comes from responsibility, fairness, and respect for the law. The prosecutor stood silently now. No interruptions. No arguments. The authority dynamic had flipped completely. The room felt different. Lighter. Balanced. People weren't reacting with shock. They were reacting with understanding. They had just watched someone attempt to overstep, and then watched that attempt end quietly, decisively, and without chaos. No shouting echoed through the courtroom. No insults were exchanged. No tempers flared. Just authority. And that authority spoke volumes. Judge Caprio concluded his response and moved on, signaling that the matter was resolved. He didn't linger on it. He didn't revisit it for emphasis. He treated it as exactly what it was. A line crossed and a line firmly redrawn. The prosecutor remained still, noticeably subdued, as the proceedings continued. His earlier bravado was gone, replaced by caution and restraint. What happened in that courtroom wasn't about humiliation. It was about accountability. It was about reminding everyone that integrity is the foundation of justice. That positions of power are held in trust, not ownership. And that when authority is real, it doesn't need to scream to be heard. The message was unmistakable. Power without integrity doesn't last. Arrogance collapses under scrutiny. And real authority doesn't raise its voice. It stands.